What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about the challenge season 36 Double Agents episode 17. So the penultimate episode question mark, or is it a 2 episode final? I guess we'll see. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like this episode, there were some things about it that made me very angry. So we're going to have a fun discussion tonight, I think, just because parts of this episode just really, really pissed me off in a way that I feel like nothing else has pissed me off in the challenge so far.
Oh my goodness. So we will have an animated discussion going opposite of pissing people off. We start off this episode with Cam and Leroy in the hot tub. I thought this was such a cute scene, especially because I feel like we don't necessarily see a lot of their relationship and we haven't seen much of their relationship this season. So it was cool that they were like, talking, this is Lee's final season. And I was like, yo, I hope this isn't foreshadowing like one of them or Leroy would be going into the elimination this episode, because it was such a cute moment.
Dude, it was really cute just because I feel like the most that we get about their relationship is like, oh, I'm not going to send Leroy in because he's my boyfriend. But we don't really get a lot of the like cutesier stuff, I guess. So it was nice to see them like talking about their future and just like being together. And I guess I never really considered that it was foreshadowing that. I thought maybe it was foreshadowing like, oh, one of them is going to win the final because this is Leroy's final season and this is like them building up a life together, and now they get however much money to like start that life that they want. So I don't know. I guess I was just more optimistic than you, I guess.
Yeah, that's a better, if it is foreshadowing something, them winning the final or one of them winning, since they ended up not in partners for the final, since they're in 2 separate partnerships. Honestly, I think them being separated for the final, even though it would be cool to watch them run a final together, but honestly, I think being separate sort of gives you better chances of winning money at all, because if you're in the same partnership, it's sort of all or nothing. You need to be first, second, or third to get any kind of money. If you're fourth place and say Cam and Leroy were partners and got fourth, then they have no luck of any money. But at least now in 2 separate partnerships, they have 2 chances to get first through third to try to win some money.
Yeah, because there's only 4 teams running the final, right? Or is there 5? Okay, so they're guaranteed to get some amount of money because one of their teams has to win for second or third. Like they can't both be fourth place. Right?
Exactly. So I think splitting up is better. So it maximizes your chance of winning something versus winning nothing. Versus if they won the title together, that would have been cool, but that's more risky, because if you got fourth together, that sucks more than if you got first together. But then, you could have gotten last and got $0.
Yeah, and I guess it's one of those things where like it would be a cute story, but like I don't think either of them are really looking for a cute story, because it's like they already know that they love each other. They already know that they have like a good partnership outside of the game. So why would they like need the like cute challenge story when they already like have basically everything that they want?
Yeah, challenge champs together on Leroy's final season versus winning money at all. I guess it depends what you care about more. Being a challenge champ does pay for the season that you win, but if you get first and second, you're technically getting more money than if you got last place or like third and fourth place or something.
Yeah. So it was cool to see that. And I feel like this was one of the only good parts of the episode for me. The rest of it was just like, I'm fine. It's fine.
Alluding to that, so TJ, we see him sneaking into the challenge house at 5:30 a.m. to wake everyone up. That is low-key scary. I feel like I would be so freaked out. Like, you maybe know it's TJ, but maybe someone broke into the house and is like going to attack you in the middle of the night. It's sort of freaky. I don't know. And it sort of reminded me like TJ being the dad, and everyone was like, get ready to go. We have to pack. We have to get changed. And it really reminded me when I was younger, we would go to like early morning swim meets. And so our parents would like wake us up and like we'd have like drag ourselves out of bed, get ready. And another cute thing, Cam making Leroy the sandwich for his trip. I was like, wow, that's so cute.
I feel like the only reason I wouldn't be worried about like someone breaking in is the fact that they have like a bajillion security guards everywhere. And like normally the security guards are for like holding back like whoever is about to get into a fight, but like they must actually do like security stuff to make sure that no one's like gonna break in, right?
You would hope. I guess 24/7 security, someone sitting there. I don't know.
I mean, also, it's the middle of a pandemic, so I feel like maybe people aren't breaking into houses as much. I would hope.
It's in the middle of Iceland, so the house looked sort of secluded, but
Yeah. But so TJ doesn't give them like any indication of what is going to happen, and so basically there's just a bunch of like discussion about like who's going to go, who's going to stay, and it ends up that being all four of the guys are the ones that go, and he just says like one of you needs to come with me. It can be either of you, but all four of the guys decide to go. There was varying like strategies for why the guy was going to go, and the thing that this was the first of many things that pissed me off was Fessy being like, I'm not going to put my fate in Amber B's hands. I don't trust her. I'm going to go myself. Just like his attitude is just so bad throughout this whole episode. Like all he does is complain. And I hated it.
I guess it was sort of weird, like TJ not telling them what was up. It makes for the element of surprise and all of the men thinking like, oh, we're going to go because the person that goes is probably like going to do something with TJ. And since it's a men's elimination, you would want to have that fate in your hands and maybe not your partner's hands. So I guess it makes sense that all of the men went with TJ. But also, I don't know. I feel like it would have been sort of like weird or unfair. Say like 3 dudes went and then 1 woman left, and then you have, or like, I don't know, like 1 guy versus 3 girls in the running and the math part. Then I was like, I don't know, would that be fair or unfair?
I feel like all of the challenges are designed to be equally fair to both genders, right? So I feel like they wouldn't do anything intentionally like unfair. So I don't know. I feel like running, like, maybe the average guy is faster than the average girl, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess running is something that, like, you could be a crap runner, and, like, some of the people on the season are, like, worse runners than other people. So, I mean, I guess it's not really, like, fair or unfair. Like, if you had, like, if guys and girls were in the same heat doing the running and the puzzle part of it. So I guess, it doesn't really matter, but it was interesting that all of the guys chose to go, or like their partners let them go with TJ under the assumption that like them going was the more important part, which it was the opposite, because the people that went with TJ, turns out you don't really do anything for the first half of the challenge. You are trapped in a 500-foot, or like you're trapped down 500 feet in a volcano. And so it's up to the women in the partnership to run 5 miles. But also people are saying it's 5 miles total, so it might not have been 5 miles to the volcano since you had to run with the briefcase to your puzzle, but like total 5 miles, and then you save your partner, and then you run more, and then you go do a puzzle. So like we saw this episode, it really came down to the girl in the partnership, the running, and the math problems.
Yeah, and I felt so bad because I think there were 3 math problems, question mark.
Yeah.
There was more than 1 math problem, but Amber B got stuck on the first math problem. Nani, does she have a reputation for being bad at math? Because she was like, ha, I'm not actually bad at math. And I was like, Nani, I didn't ever think you were bad at math. So
I guess I was like, the mental math, I think it could be really hard, like in the moment when you're under that kind of pressure. But like when they showed the briefcases, like for Amber B's one, I like tried to do it in my head as well. And then like, it can be really hard if you're under pressure, or you start to get like freaked out that like Amber B was the last one there. She knows she's falling behind. She's letting down her partner kind of thing. And so yeah, I felt so bad for her because she's like a really, really good runner. So if she could have just gotten past that first math problem and like done the other math problems well, and then like she could have had a fighting chance in this
Yeah, I
episode.
think she said something to the effect of the more I do it, the more confusing it becomes. And I feel like that's definitely the case. Or if you get something wrong the first time and you like only know how to do it one way, then it becomes more confusing because you have to find out a new way to do the problem. You have to find out why your old answer was wrong. I feel like with those kinds of combination locks, I would also worry that the lock was just not working right because it wasn't like it was a super high-tech lock. It was just one of those like flippy combination locks, and so I would be like, maybe I had the right answer, but this lock is just jammed.
And
So
it's really hard without paper. Like writing it down, I'm sure you could do well. And if you're not practicing like math or long division or like how do you do like math problems and multiplication without a calculator, and like how do you carry the numbers, how do you get the remainder and everything like that, I think like it can be very difficult. So maybe that's something people should practice in their off season, mental math or like doing math or tricks to do math easier, because at least in like the challenge all stars for the first episode, they had to do like long division problems. But like if it's an odd number, like one of them was divided by 19, a trick you could do is bump it up to 20 and then like figure out the remainder and then add it on to your final answer, because like numbers like 19 are hard, but 20 goes into things more easily. So like Amber B had a number that had like 6s and 7s and 8s. And I was like, personally, those numbers for multiplication are so difficult. I like 1 through 5 or like 9s, but like 6, 7, and 8 are really hard.
I think hers was 982 times 7. And I feel like for me, what I would do would just be 1000 times 7 and then subtract 7 18 times, just because 982 times 7 is not an easy one to do. So,
yeah, like doing tricks like that makes it a lot easier, because numbers that are uneven and like odd numbers like 7 multiplying it in, way too difficult to do without paper. So you know, you can't really bash Amber B too much for like not being able to do it.
I also think it's kind of unfair that they all had different math problems, because I feel like it's one of those things where, like we've been saying, it's harder to multiply 9s, 8s, and 7s in your head than it is to do like 1s, 2s, and 3s. And I didn't get a good look at what the other math problems were, but I feel like 982 times 7 is on the harder end of the spectrum for what you would expect to be able to do in your head under pressure.
It has all the hard numbers in it. So I was wondering, since Amber B got to the tables first, I wonder like if you thought, maybe you thought all of the briefcases had the same exact combination, but then like, oh, everyone could cheat on it. So it makes sense that they made them different. So people couldn't just like tell each other the answer. So I guess that makes sense. But like Amber B got there first. Maybe if she thought ahead, or if she knew they were all different, she could have spent 10 seconds looking at all of the briefcases and were like, see, oh, this one looks easier, let me stick to this one, because yeah, she got a hard number.
I also feel like it would be interesting in these challenges if they like gave you a choice, like either you can do this puzzle or you can take a detour that will add an extra mile to your trip, but you don't have to do this puzzle. Because I feel like there's a challenge in Survivor where it's like, if you do the harder physical stuff, then you get the easier puzzle. And I feel like it's that sort of thing where if you know what your strengths are as a person or as a team, then you should be able to play to those strengths instead of like something that you don't know how to do, just completely eliminating you from the competition.
Yeah, that would have been cool, because I feel like, yeah, Survivor does that a lot. You could do like a 10-piece puzzle or like a 50-piece puzzle. So like, which do you do? Choose your own adventure style. So that's cool. So I guess, I don't know though, maybe getting rid of all of the puzzles, then it's sort of, I guess you would have to make the puzzle like easy enough that it's the quicker option. So you want people to do the puzzle, because say you give people puzzles and then everyone chooses like the brute force strength option. So then people like Devin, who may be weaker at the running or the physical stuff, gets like cheated twice because he's slower at the running and the puzzle takes longer than like running the extra mile or something. So I feel like you need some way that like the puzzle is actually faster and easier for the people that study puzzles or are smarter or better at puzzles, to give them sort of maybe like an advantage or a leg up or something.
The thing is, I feel like multiplying a 3-digit number times a 1-digit number, if you know how to do that and can do mental math, that could be like a 1-minute problem for you. And I feel like there's no way that you're going to like run an extra mile in a minute. Like a 6-minute mile is considered a good time. So I feel like one thing that you could do to like even it out or whatever is determine like how long the puzzle takes on average, and then figure out like double that amount of time, and then figure out how long you would have to run in order to match the time of like double the puzzle time or something like that. So it would be, I think it would actually be fairly easy to implement, because if you know what the time it takes to run is, then yeah. And you should have stats on how long it takes each of these people to run a mile. So
yeah, or even like you're saying the average amount of time to run a mile for the average person, and the average amount of time it takes to do a certain task or a puzzle to like even it out. But yeah, you just can't have like two tasks that have gravely different times that it takes to do them kind of thing. Like, oh, a 2-minute puzzle versus run 2 miles, which is like what, 10 to 15 minutes if you're like going really fast and not tired. So you do just need to have to figure out, okay, what makes it sort of equitable that like picking one thing might be better for strategy and time, but you aren't like super at disadvantage by picking something else. But like you alluded to, Alyssa, Amber B, she can't do the first math problem, so she can't even complete the rest of this challenge. Fessy, I wrote in my notes, I said, Fessy is going to be so mad at Amber B. I can just hear it now. And what do we see throughout like this entire challenge and the entire episode, really? Fessy is complaining that, why did Amber B have to pick me? Why can't she perform in this challenge? And literally when like the other competitors were coming down into the volcano to get their partner, Fessy kept asking, where's Amber B? They're like, oh, I don't know. I think she still might be at the first checkpoint. Fessy would say something rude back. And then like it came to the point where the people in the volcano and the women coming down to get their partners just started ignoring Fessy. And I was like, this is just too good. Fessy's asking all these questions and complaining about Amber. And then the people are just like literally doing their own thing. Like, stop.
Fessy just had a really bad attitude, because he like talks so much about how great he is, and then he's like, why did she choose me as a partner? And it's like, well, if you think that you're the hot shit, then you should know why she chose you as a partner. And just like, we'll talk more about this later, but I feel like Fessy has this habit of blaming everyone but himself. Like he's like, I didn't even get to compete this season. And it's like, bruh, it's not your partner's fault.
Yeah, like the common denominator, he in the episode, he says, oh, I didn't like being partners with Anissa. She sucks. Nani sucks. Amber B sucks. So it's sort of like, okay, what's the common denominator here? It's only you, Fessy. So I like, maybe he's doing it just for the edit and to be invited back for more seasons, because he can like push buttons and he knows it makes for TV. And then he's going to be invited back as like the antagonist or the villain or like a character that people love to hate. But it's just like, it doesn't come across well in TV, because it just seems like he's very arrogant. And, you know, you want to root for people on this show that are humble and like don't like are good people and like don't bash their partners. And it's just sort of like, you know, Anissa won a lot of things when she wasn't your partner as well. Like Amber B won a daily challenge with Darrell. It's not like these people were losers and totally suck. Like they're winning things also.
Yeah, and I feel like Kyle is someone who I think is like a good antagonist, where like no one really likes him, but also everyone likes him, because like, yeah, he can be kind of a jerk, but he's not doing it from a place of like malice. He's obviously doing it from a place of like, I'm a smart ass, or I'm going to be smarmy. And I feel like the head-to-head of Kyle and Fessy, when they both ended up going in the crater in this episode, I felt like was a metaphor for something. Because it's like, even though they're both like major antagonists of this season, people were sad to see Kyle go. And I'm not sure that if Fessy had lost, that anyone would be sad to see him go. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just interesting to like juxtapose those two. And it just sort of, maybe it's the editing of this episode, but I feel like Fessy just came off so poorly. This episode, the past few episodes, and maybe it's the editing that they're like purposefully putting all of this content in. But it's like, Fessy, please stop. Like, you're being a bad sport, and like to keep on complaining and blaming everyone's like you losing and like, oh, I couldn't compete this entire season. This season sucks because I had a partner. I want to be solo. Like, I want to win things. I want to be able to compete. Like, you can think them in your head, but I feel like saying them out loud, especially when you're pissing off multiple people in the house, like it's not just Amber B who's mad, Nani who was mad at him and didn't want to be their partner, but like we saw later, Casey and Cam both had complaints about Fessy. So it's like, I don't know. You just have to like, don't say it out loud. You can think it, just don't say it out loud.
Yeah, or like at least don't say it in front of the person it's about. Because I feel like Fessy like did his whole like, oh, I don't dislike Amber B thing, but it was kind of obvious that he did. So
We'll get more to Fessy because more stuff happens. I'm sure, Alyssa, this is just check box 1 on your annoyance of Fessy this episode. But Cam is first place in this challenge. So Cam and Corey are the double agents. Super great for them. Nani came in second, or down into the volcano. Nani was second. Casey was third. And it seemed like there wasn't a lot of gap between them because when everyone was running with their partners to the puzzle, they had shots where you could see like all of the teams and like some people running overtook other people running to the final puzzle. So I thought that was cool to show like, oh, this isn't an editing trick or something. Like, they're not super, super far ahead, but it is sort of an even playing field. And I was rooting for Kyle, honestly, because like we said last week, if he didn't win it, he's probably going in.
yeah, and I felt bad for Kyle because like it seemed there was a bunch of like politicking going around because basically since Cam and Corey won, they knew that they were not going to be the house vote, obviously. And they knew that Leroy was not going to be put in by them. But there was also a chance that Leroy was going to be the house vote because if Fessy and Kyle teamed up and both voted for Leroy, then he was going to go down. And so I felt bad for Kyle because there was almost a chance that he didn't have to go down because it was almost going to be such that it would be Leroy versus Fessy, but then that did not happen.
Yeah, all of the like other plans from what actually happened this episode were very interesting because I thought it could have been cool if, you know, Kyle and Fessy teamed up and they vote in Leroy with their partners. It puts Casey in an interesting moral dilemma. Like, do you pick between your BFF Fessy or do you pick your Leroy, who like you've basically been with all season? And I would have wanted to see Casey make that decision because I feel like if Casey flipped on Leroy and voted him in to go with Fessy and like to align with Fessy more would not be a good look, especially after considering last week her backstabbing Amber B and like backstabbing the Big Brother alliance. And so I thought that would have been interesting to like add to Casey's story arc of like having too many social connections and then she has to backstab her allies. But, you know, Casey played it well because she, like, you know, didn't want to make that decision. And then we see Casey gassing Fessy up. And we also see Corey gassing Fessy up. Like, Fessy, you're so legendary. You know, you should go in and throw yourself and be the house vote for this elimination so you can pick Casey as a partner. And then you can win the final. And I was like, yo, good for Casey and Corey, like figuring out what kind of argument would work on Fessy because literally gassing Fessy up like that and telling Fessy, go in so you can ditch your partner that you hate, Amber B. You can pick me, Casey, and we can go win the final. Like, you've complained all season about not being able to compete. So go in and compete, Fessy. And I was like, dang, that's some good argumentation from Casey and Corey to like gas him up.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things where Fessy's ego kind of got in the way because I feel like if you were being objective about it, you would say it doesn't matter if I go into a final with a partner I don't like that much because at least I'm going into the final. And personally, I kind of hated that this challenge was a hall brawl because that's kind of, it felt kind of like it was designed for Fessy to be able to win.
100%.
But like in a normal challenge, I feel like it would be like 50-50 about whether or not Fessy would be the winner. So, yeah.
It makes sense, I guess, because last week was a women's elimination hall brawl, and so they've had 2 girl hall brawls, and now they've only had 1 guy hall brawl, so then it makes sense that this would also be a hall brawl. But yeah, I'm like, imagine if it were like the puzzle challenge, or like the challenge that Leroy and Jay did, or like the challenge where you had to like fly on the contraption and do a puzzle. Like, Fessy wouldn't win.
The thing is, I feel like with guys' hall brawls, I feel like the difference between the biggest guy and the smallest guy is much bigger than the difference between the biggest girl and the smallest girl. Like, I'm not going to say that Amber B versus Big T was like a fair fight, but Fessy must weigh at least 100 pounds more than Kyle.
I'm sure for any hall brawl, you can sort of put your money on the winner is going to be the person that weighs more and like is taller probably. And so
that just like that doesn't seem fair to me. Like, I feel like there should be more to a hall brawl than just weight. So
So yeah, we see people in the deliberation calling Fessy out for playing scared. Cam says, okay, Mr. Confident, go show us how you compete individually if you're always complaining about being dragged down. And I was sort of sad again because Cam and Leroy and Corey and Kyle came up with this new plan, or more so Leroy came up with this plan and then Cam was like brought into the plan. But Leroy was promising Kyle, hey, Kyle, if you don't vote for me ever to go into elimination this week, Cam will force a tie at the crater and then send her partner Corey in against whoever the house vote is, which I was like, oh, yes, like, let's save Kyle. This is great. But then I was thinking, like, why in the world would Cam throw her partner Corey in? Like, they work well together. They've won a challenge together. Why wouldn't they want to run the final together? Like, Cam has no incentive to save Kyle here. Like, why would she get rid of Corey now?
I think the thing is, they made the plan assuming that Fessy would not want to go in, and they never like put in any sort of contingency clause about like, oh, but if Fessy decides he wants to go in, like, our deal is off. Because if it had actually been, because the house vote ended up being unanimously Fessy, and I feel like they didn't need Kyle in that case because the house vote was unanimously Fessy. But if they had needed Kyle to win the house vote and get Fessy into the crater, then I feel like Cam has more of an incentive to throw in Corey. And even then, I could see Cam being like, you know what, I don't want to throw in Corey. I'm going to throw in Kyle anyway. And I don't know, I just felt really bad for Kyle because he was very confident that Cam wouldn't screw him over because Cam had never screwed him over before. And I felt bad for him because he put his trust in the wrong person, but also it's like, it's the difference between knowing you're going to go in and not knowing. Because I feel like if they hadn't made this deal, Kyle would have been okay with going in. Kyle thought he was going to go in regardless. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think Fessy volunteering to go in the deliberation really made like the deal void because, like you were saying, Leroy and Cam only really needed Kyle to like help sway votes, or so that Kyle didn't vote with Fessy and vote Leroy in. But Fessy volunteering to go in during the deliberation just like voided the deal. So you know, you can't really fault them for going back on it because after Fessy volunteers, it's sort of like Leroy's not going in because Fessy just like fell on his sword. He wants to get thrown in. Like, you're not saving us anymore, Kyle. I just thought it was so funny in the deliberation that Fessy brought his notes, which I guess I get because like you want to remember things and say everything so you don't forget. But I was like, everyone's confessionals were so right. He was reading it so monotone.
I feel like going back to the Cam and Leroy and Kyle thing, I feel like I can't fault them for backing out on the deal, but I can fault them for blindsiding him. Like, I feel like it wouldn't have been that hard to have a conversation with him before the crater and be like, listen, since Fessy volunteered to go in by himself and you were not a necessary part of him being voted into the crater, I don't feel comfortable voting in my partner because you didn't actually help me that much. You didn't get me out of a sticky situation, so why should I get you out of a sticky situation? And I also feel like on the challenge, don't make promises you can't keep or aren't sure you can keep, because that's just what screws everybody over. And I feel like we've seen that over and over again this season, where people make promises not quite sure they can keep them and then are kind of screwed over. And the only reason that this isn't going to totally screw over Cam is because this is the last round of voting. And I feel like if she and Kyle ever play on a season again, because it's Leroy's last season, but I don't think it's Cam's. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I feel like if they ever play on a season again, Kyle will have a grudge, and he'll have a reason to hold a grudge, because not only did Cam vote him into the crater, she also technically is the reason he broke a finger. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think like it doesn't make sense to, like you're saying, blindside people in this regard. And I think like, didn't this exact same thing happen to Kyle when he was voted in against Joseph at the beginning of this season? And I know Kyle on like Instagram or in after shows, he said like he was so angry about being voted in and blindsided against Joseph at the beginning of the season is because he has type 1 diabetes. So since he was blindsided against Joseph, he wasn't able to like eat enough or like fix his insulin before going into the elimination. And that's why we saw him vomiting after his elimination with Joseph. So I'm sure like, you know, if he was blindsided like here, which it seems like it was because he was like had a very big reaction to it, it's like, you know, you would have just sort of liked a heads up, especially like for other reasons for his health. Like he probably would have loved a heads up. Like just tell someone straight up, yo, sorry, we have to vote you in. There's no one else we can vote in.
Yeah. I didn't know that thing about him having type 1 diabetes. I thought he just puked because it was like a super physically intense challenge. But I just feel like it was sucky on multiple levels. And like Kyle isn't my favorite competitor this season, but I also feel like he didn't deserve that kind of like disrespect, I guess, especially because he's been playing from the bottom this whole season. He finally thinks that he gets a break, and then it's not actually a break.
And then whoop-de-doo. I guess, did you want to say anything about Fessy's note?
I just rolled my eyes because he like said some stuff that sounded so fake. Like, I just want to be like you when I grow up or whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, Fessy, just stop. So, yeah.
Either way, with this vote, I feel like it puts Cam and Leroy sort of in a hard place, because if they throw in Fessy, Fessy's 100% picking Casey if Fessy wins, so Leroy loses his partner, which, I mean, I think it brings up the question, should Leroy go in and risk it and go in and potentially lose, or win and go in and keep your partner? Because, like, personally, I would say that Leroy has a better chance of winning the final with Casey over Nany. So is Leroy not going into this elimination, even though you risked going home, actually going to cost him in the final?
I feel like the thing is, Leroy said, like, I want to be partners with Casey, but I don't want it enough that I am willing to risk going home for it. And I feel like that's a perfectly valid thing, where Leroy isn't like Fessy, where he has this whole complex about, like, I can only be with the best girl this season. Because I feel like Leroy is really close with Nany. Leroy obviously is really close with Cam. And Leroy is also really close with Casey. And so that's 3 of the 4 girls he would be perfectly happy to run with. And I feel like it's one of those things where we talked last week about how sometimes partners don't work, not because they're like physically incompatible, but because they like can't communicate correctly. And if you're running the final with your best friend, you're going to be able to do that communication pretty well. So yeah.
I guess we'll see. I think it does make sense to you rather not risk it at this point, especially because they think or know that the final is going to happen next episode. So it's like, you might as well not risk it. I think it makes more sense to be in the final, even if you have a worse partner, than to be eliminated right before the final. And Kyle probably has that same sentiment. He would probably rather be in the final rather than being eliminated right before the final. So go into the crater. It's a hall brawl. TJ said, best 3 out of 5. And I was like, oh my God, that is going to be so tiring. We get to the first round. They edit the heck out of this hit. And I was like, stop. We've said this every other hall brawl. Like, just edit it. Give us one angle. Let us see them run. You don't need to have like the straight on angle, the upward angle, the downward angle, the close up angle. Like, we don't even get to see them run into each other.
Yeah, it also just, I feel like watching someone slam into someone who is like half their size just isn't fun. Like, I didn't have fun watching this hall brawl because I was just like, Fessy straight up obliterates Kyle. Kyle is like holding on to him, trying to keep him from getting to the button. And then Kyle stands up and is like, oh, I think my finger's broken. And ugh.
It was so like gross, like zooming into his crooked finger. And then when the medics come and then they like crack the finger, I was like, oh, we did not need to see that. Like, I think we talked about this in a different podcast, Alyssa, but like science class in middle school, when they showed us the video of like kids falling on the playground, breaking their arm, and then they would do like slow-mo shots of like you fall like this and then your bones crack and like the bone is out of the skin. And I was like, oh, it reminded me of that. And I was just like, stop. I don't need to see that on my TV.
I felt so bad for Kyle too, though, because he was like, just bandage me up and I'll be fine. I can keep going. And then the medics were like, no, you can't. And
it was
like,
so sad.
And while this is going on, Fessy's like standing in the corner, still with his helmet on, like hyping himself up. And I'm like, dude, you just broke somebody's finger. Like, have a little bit of respect. At least take your helmet off.
It felt so bad for Kyle because Kyle is like, no medics. Like, I do not need to be looked at. I'm ready to go. And then it just, I don't know. He's, yeah, like you were saying, he wants to do another round, but the medics say no. And I was like, wow, just because your finger stops you from doing the entire hall brawl. I guess it makes sense because you don't want to keep injuring it, or maybe they were thinking maybe he hurt his wrist or something as well. And so it's too dangerous for him. And in the after show, Kyle showed his finger and it's still like messed up. It's got a weird bend in it. So like it didn't really heal correctly if he's got a bend in his bone or finger now. And I was just, this has got to be so sad.
Yeah, it also sucks that that's the way that you go home, where it's not really your choice. Like, I feel like medevacs and survivors suck, but then in the challenge, getting medically evacuated sucks, especially when you're literally in the middle of fighting to stay in the game. And I guess you could argue that Kyle was going to lose this hall brawl anyway, so at least he got medically evacuated and wasn't, like, just losing, but it still sucks.
It's like one finger took him out of the entire competition in hall brawl, not even like his arm or shoulder or anything. I'm like, yeah, it just sucks. Sort of like Jay last season getting medevaced when he went against Rogan. And I was like, you never really want to see someone go home because someone else like hurts them. But also Kyle said in the after show, like it was his fault because he like looped into Fessy's like pants or belt or something. So when Fessy got up, it like pulled his finger and then broke his finger. But it's just, I don't know. I guess, how do you make this safer? Or can you not make it any safer? There's just so many DQs because of like medical reasons this season. Like half the cast, like 7 out of 30 people left because of that.
It was 7? Jeez Louise. Just like, I don't know. I feel like even if it is Kyle's fault, it still sucks. And also, they should like give them some sort of training of like, this is how to not break your hand. Because
yeah,
you can't expect someone to know, like, if most people, this is going to shock you guys, but most people don't just slam into others at high force for shits and giggles. Like, I feel like football players and rugby players are the only ones that like know how to take a hit like that safely.
I was
And
like, only if you've played contact sports before, you know how to do those safely. But like, if you're just Kyle or a random Joe on the street, you're not going to know, like, oh, how to hit right. Where do you put your fingers?
I feel like, especially because of the amount of injuries this season, they should have everyone do like a basic course on like, this is how to fall without breaking your limbs. This is how to hit without breaking your fingers or breaking your neck. Like, they're honestly lucky that the worst stuff that happened this season was like a couple of broken bones. And like, it's bad if the worst thing is a couple of broken bones, because nobody should be breaking their bones on a television show. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, or like how to wrestle correctly, too. It's just so depressing. Kyle, one little finger takes him out of the competition. It was so sad in his last confessional, talking like he wants to tell his grandkids stories of this and like, but sort of lie about it and say he won and whatnot. And I was just like, dang, that's so cute, considering now Kyle just announced that he's going to be a dad. And I was like, oh, this is just so depressing.
Yeah. It really sucks, and I wish that it had ended differently, especially because just Fessy was so annoying this episode that I like wanted him to get his comeuppance. And I feel like nothing would be more embarrassing to Fessy than being beaten in a hall brawl by Kyle. So
maybe next season, since Fessy's probably getting invited back, Kyle probably getting invited back, but he might decline because of child on the way. So I guess we'll see. They need to have a do-over or a redo or like a battle sometime, and maybe make it more even where they're not in a hall brawl.
yeah.
So we're almost at the final next week. TJ announces it, which is so freaking exciting. And so Fessy picks Casey as a partner. They're partners. Leroy picks Nany. I thought this was cute because it seems like it's very full circle, considering they're such longtime friends, that like Leroy would finish his final season with his sister of the challenge.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm really excited to see the final, and I hope that it turns out okay. So
yeah, and so CT and Amber B are partners, and then Corey and Cam are partners. So Fessy and Casey were partners briefly, and they're friends, so they probably can work well together. Leroy and Nany, friends, so they can probably work well together. CT and Amber B, maybe that's more of a question mark because that's a very, very new partnership. But maybe because Amber B was partnered with Darrell, then that's kind of like, oh, I was already partnered with the champ. I know like maybe how to work with the champ, or champ mentality, or like I know that I'm a rookie and I need to be learning from CT. I think she'll have that attitude going into the final, where like she probably will like be more quiet and CT will be able to be like, do this, don't do that. And like she will want to learn and then become more confident after running the final for her first season. But like, I just imagine like if Fessy was partnered with like Ashley or like a challenge champ, that Fessy would be trying to like boss Ashley around, even though Ashley is a champ.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. I feel bad for whoever is on Fessy's team at any point. And I feel bad for Casey because even if they're friends, I feel like Fessy has shown that he's not a good partner. So I'm not sure Fessy is going to do well in the final. And honestly, I just think it would be hilarious if he came in last place in the final again.
Twice in a row, back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, especially because it would kind of like put a damper on his whole like, oh, I'm such a good competitor thing. So
yeah, so some small payback or karma potentially there. I think I'm just excited. We've waited 4 months for this final to occur, so we're actually going to get some answers, see what's up. It seems like it might be like a 2-part final based off of the preview for next week, so maybe it's sort of like last season where there's like a challenge in the middle and some team gets eliminated, or like only 3 teams can make the second day based off of like time or points or something. So it'll be cool to see what 3 teams make it to part 2, which team wins, and the whole order.
Yep. So let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Do you find Fessy as intolerable as I do, or do you like him for some reason? We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to hear your opinions, and we are super excited to see you guys next week with the first part of the final. Or maybe both parts. We're not really
Hopefully
sure
both.
yet, but
Let's get it done.